Hi, I'm Kelly Bassetti Primo, and welcome to my podcast, Learning Curves, where I bring the small business community direct to you. In my podcast, Learning Curves, we learn about all the unique services that businesses have to offer, and we also learn about the different challenges that businesses go through. In times, businesses go through several different ups and downs, and we talk about the learning curves that we all go through and how we address those. I hope you enjoy my podcast. Thank you for tuning in. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the next episode of Learning Curves. I'm here with Ashley
Abramson!
Yay! And we're going to have a great show for you here today. Ashley is a coach where she talks about the unicorn effect, which we talked about on our last episode. We had a great conversation together, and I just loved everything that you had to say during that time period. And I think that, a lot of the things that you coach about is so helpful to so many people. I know we talked a lot about divorce. Hit home with me because I got divorced and went through a lot. So I think that you have a lot to offer, and you just don't necessarily coach on divorce. You coach on a lot of things that really help people get their happy self back again.
Yeah, I'm a self-love mentor, inner child expert, social worker gone rogue. My clients like to refer to me as the ego whisperer. And essentially, I help peel back the societal programming and all the crap that's gunked you up so you can get back to true peace and happiness within. So, yeah.
I think we all need that at times. There's certain times when things are great and there's certain times in our life when it's not. So having someone that can help us along and get out of that rut is really great.
Yeah.
So the last time we talked about the unicorn effect, and this time we want to cover a few more things that we talked about, more self-love.
Yeah, like a deeper understanding
of who we are, maybe where some of those things that make us feel bad about ourselves are coming from.
Yeah. Yeah, so
I don't think we take the time to really think about that.
No, definitely not. I mean, a lot of times when people think about self-love, it's manicures and pedicures and bubble baths and wine Wednesdays. But in all reality, those things are great. But true self-love is getting to your answers within, healing yourself, and just living that life of peace and happiness that we all have the innate right to, but the majority of the time don't take the opportunity to get there because it's not an easy road. I always tell my clients it's simple, but it's not easy. So it's as simple as making the decision, and the journey is difficult, but it's so beautiful, and it's really about the journey. So I'm super honored to be here again.
Yay.
So many beautiful things have happened in both of our lives since the last episode, so it's been a journey, and I'm glad we've come back.
I think I don't think I was married yet, was I?
No, it was you were in the thick of almost heading out across the water for your wedding, and you were crazy planning.
I was.
Yeah. I think it was a month before you left.
Okay. Yeah, but I was definitely crazy planning then.
Yeah.
Actually, it was every single weekend for a year, crazy planning.
Yeah. Oh, so beautiful.
And went on a great trip, and it was awesome, and then came back, and it's been crazy.
Yeah. Crazy
pretty. Sometimes it's hard to leave and go away, from your business and everything for a month, but it was really awesome, and I'm glad I took the time to do that.
I'm glad you did too. So many people leave a 9-to-5 to go build their own business for this beautiful life of freedom and do whatever they want, and then you get into it and you're like, I'm working way more than I did during my 9-to-5. And
owning your own business, you work all the time, it seems like.
Yeah, for sure.
I know myself, I'm a bit of a workaholic and don't always give myself a break as much as I should.
Yeah.
Doing this for 26 years and just find myself, sometimes up until 2 a.m, or you're up, or you just can't sleep at night and you go in and work, and just the mind break is hard when you own your own business because everything's on you. When you work for somebody else, you can clock in and clock out.
Right. And you're someone else is going to do your stuff while you're gone, or hopefully.
Right.
But I think like as entrepreneurs, and I know we're kind of like taking a different road, but
Yeah.
like I'm a firm believer you're everything outside of you is only doing as well as inside of you. So us as entrepreneurs are trying to build these beautiful, amazing businesses, and we wonder why it's so difficult. But then if I say, well, did you, take any time for your own healing in the last year or really focus on you? And they're like, no, I'm building a business. And it's like, but if you don't take care of the one person who runs the business, operates it, then the business will show. So I think that's a huge trap we easily fall into as entrepreneurs is we forget that like our business will only do as well as we are doing because it is our business. So I just wanted to share that because it's so overlooked. And the theory of the lone wolf, how she worked herself to the bone so that she could get where she was and she didn't have time for friends. And it's like this glorified thing these days of women entrepreneurs being the lone wolf. When in all reality, that was just created as a good excuse for something we didn't feel very good about, right? So you get to the top and you're like, I'm all alone. Well, our ego, what it does is tries to trick us and is like, well, that's the way it's supposed to be. Like, look at, you're successful because you sacrificed. When in all reality, like when you live in a state of peace and happiness, there's no such thing as sacrifice, period. Like that is something that was created by the ego. That was something that's meant to keep us stuck and keep us in those thought loops of lack and negativity. But in all reality, everything's a choice and nothing is a sacrifice. So I think often people see like, oh, if I want to be healthy and work out, I have to sacrifice X, Y, and Z. No, you're not sacrificing. You're making a choice. You're making a choice to do this or a choice to do that. If you truly want to, feel confident and happy and feel good in your body, then most likely you'll make the choice to eat healthy, the choice to not have, that extra piece of cake. But that's a choice. You didn't sacrifice something. You just chose not to have it, right?
That is true.
Everything's a choice.
Yes, it is. And
Okay.
Right, as business owners tend to beat ourselves up about a lot of things, and we feel lonely sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Oh, for sure. I think we like purposely do that almost. Not like intentionally us like, oh, I want to be lonely, right. But the way the infrastructure is set up, we're told that's the only way to build a successful business is to put your nose down and grind, right? Like, don't get distracted. How dare you go on a month vacation out of the country? Like, you will never build a good business. But in reality, if those are the things you do, you will show up better. Therefore, your business will be better, right? Wouldn't you rather have 2 hours of super productive work in a day versus I'm going to force myself to sit in the office for 10 hours and get maybe a half an hour's worth of productive work done? But you felt good because you worked 10 hours on the business, but you really didn't get anything done.
Right.
Instead of, oh, I'm going to go.
Shuffling around a lot of papers.
Right. Instead, you could have been like, oh, I'm going to go kayaking for 8 hours today and put 2 really good hours into my business. Way more productive. Way more helpful.
Yes.
So don't forget to take time for you.
I know. And your kids and your dogs and your loved ones, everybody else in your life. That's important too.
Yeah. Choices.
Yes.
Choices. So I know we kind of talked about discussing the one love language that trumps all 5 love languages you've been programmed to learn or programmed to look towards, I guess you could say.
Right. So what are they?
So, well, I'm guessing the majority of the people listening have either heard of the 5 love languages or know what they are. Are you familiar with the 5 love languages? I'm familiar
with what they are.
Yeah, so it's like acts of service. You receive love through acts of service or gifts or words of affirmation, but that's how you best receive love. That's what the 5 love languages tell you. And I'm here to say that, in fact, we all receive true unconditional love on the same exact level. And it has nothing to do with gifts. It has nothing to do with words of affirmation. It has nothing to do with any of that. That's an ego level love. It is not unconditional. It is not true love. It is love that was created within here in this illusion. And the only true unconditional love is forgiveness. And we all equally can receive that. Like, it doesn't need to come wrapped up with a special bow, and we can all receive it, period. You don't even have to go tell someone like, hey, Kelly, I forgive you. Like, I'm not talking that. I'm talking just a deep, innate understanding within you that what occurred actually never really occurred. Like, and that goes into the piece of the illusion and being able to forgive, because when you forgive, let's say, okay, I'm going to just use this as an example. So, Kelly, let's say you ticked me off, right?
Right.
You said something here today that, what I say, prickled me. That's when someone says something, you just don't feel right about it. You feel like irritated, you know, which is really an opportunity to reflect on yourself and what that person is sparking within you. So then let's say I leave here and I just can't get over it. I cannot forgive you. Like, I can't stop thinking about it. I have to unfollow you on Instagram. You know, I can't listen to our episode coming out, all of that stuff. And what I think inside and what we're trained to think is that what you did is so bad, Kelly, that I have every right to feel this way. Right?
Right.
But what I'm here to say is that's not what's really going on. Okay. So collectively, do you believe we have a collective consciousness? Like, we're all connected somewhere?
Absolutely.
Okay. So if we are all connected, wouldn't me forgiving you actually be forgiving me?
I like that.
Yeah.
Yep.
So because I have not done my own internal work, I do not believe I am worthy. So for me to forgive you when I don't believe I'm worthy of forgiveness can't happen. And it's not that I'm consciously thinking that, it's that my subconscious knows that me forgiving you is actually forgiving myself. And I have not worked through it to be able to forgive myself and believe I'm worthy of forgiveness.
Wow.
Did I just blow your mind?
That's deep.
We went kind of deep on the learning curves today.
That is deep.
Yeah, but isn't it, like I said earlier, simple, but not necessarily easy?
But I mean, I hear you. I mean, I tend to do it a lot too. I get annoyed and irritated, and, you know, sometimes I can hold grudges, and I know other people, because I have a tendency to, you know, say things like foot and mouth and say things, and I've irritated people where, you know, I've seen that they don't even want to be my friend anymore.
Right.
All of a sudden, you know, they still, you know, they're not liking your Facebook posts. Or it's kind of stupid that you look at that stuff, but you can tell.
Oh yeah,
you know?
You can tell.
And you can tell the ones that are definitely don't want anything to do with you anymore compared to the ones that do love you. Right. And the same thing with me. Like, I'll be like, well, okay, then I'm going to do this too, you know, like, screw you.
Right. You feel justified then, right?
Right.
Because all you've got going on now is like two egos fighting with each other.
Yeah, and it's, honestly, it doesn't feel good to be like that either.
No. And like, when you say it doesn't feel good, Brene Brown refers to it in
I love her.
Yeah, me too. The Power of Vulnerability on Audible. If you haven't listened to it, like, listen to it. But essentially she refers to it as shame gremlins. So, and you've heard this, right? Shame gremlins. So, when we feel shame and guilt about something, we tend to, spew it on other people, right? Like, it's so much easier to deal with something if we just like point the finger elsewhere. So pointing our finger at you or you or you. So that ickiness you feel after you've had an interaction with someone who spewed their shame gremlins on you is because you were slimed. They pushed something on you.
I've heard of that before.
Yeah, they pushed something on you that was actually theirs. So it doesn't feel right because it's not yours. But you feel responsible to take it on because it was packaged in a box that appeared to be yours. Like, it had Kelly's name on it, but what inside had nothing to do with Kelly. Does that make sense?
It makes sense.
Yeah. So
interesting.
So essentially, back to, forgiveness. Forgiveness is really the true answer to everything. I have done so much mindset work and so much other work. And I always, even healing of the inner child. What I really found at the end of the day, I was using the word healing, right? But it was always forgiveness. It was going back to my childhood, to those things that I operated under and was doing things based on that. And the only way to stop doing them was actually forgiving what had occurred, forgiving the situation, the person, but I was only able to do that because of the worthiness, because of feeling worthy, which is where the inner child work came in, right? You go back to a situation, you understand your worth in the process, and then you're able to forgive, and then it no longer rules your life. Because we're all just walking around operating from a place of shame and guilt, and the only way to get over the shame and guilt, not get over, I hate that word, to move through the shame and guilt to the other side, is to be vulnerable and forgive. I mean, so simple, right? Like forgiveness.
Do you think a lot of people, I guess, allow their ego to get in their ways to not forgive? Is that part of it?
Well, I think, my understanding and my belief is that the ego is like everything, is this illusion, and that's like a whole different rabbit hole. Yes. But the ego wants us to constantly feel a state of separation, right? And if I get angry at you, if I were to forgive you and understand what I shared earlier about us being collectively one and me forgiving you is actually forgiving me, like that is completely opposite of what the ego wants you to believe.
Yes, it is.
Right?
Right.
So it's much easier for the ego to just stop you at the beginning.
Has attitude.
Yeah, and dig your heels in even deeper.
That's right.
And feel
Pause.
feel more self-justified and righteous versus allowing you to start to go down that tunnel of forgiveness and then have to figure out how to backtrack you out of there. If that makes sense.
That makes a lot of sense.
Oh, we went deep, sorry.
It's like the other head, that's on you.
Yeah, it kind of is. Like, as I've gone through this journey and have gotten deeper into forgiveness and understanding of everything, that old, I remember looking, at newspapers and like comics and stuff. And I felt like every Sunday there was always some sort of comic of the devil and the angel, one on each shoulder, and they're listening.
Ever watch Fred Flintstone?
Yeah.
he had the little devil and the angel.
Right. But it's so true because it's either fear or love.
Yes.
Ego or higher self. And that's what we're always faced against is a state of fear, which is the ego, and every negative emotion or uncomfortable emotion falls under that category. And then the other is our higher self, which everybody's talking about these days, and that is love. And forgiveness is love and joy and happiness and peace. So you're constantly in this battle within of, which do I choose? Which do I choose? Because fear is so much more comfortable. Isn't it? I think it's more comfortable. Is it
comfortable, though?
I think it's more comfortable to sit in a state of anger because we feel justified. And, I mean, it's once you really start to experience happiness and love. But in the moment when someone says
it can also be gut-wrenching at the same time, though.
That is very true. But then if that's the case, why don't we always just all choose love?
I think because we like to be hard on ourselves.
See, so it's like, I always tell my clients that the ego will do everything to stop you in this journey because the ego loves comfort. It does not like change whatsoever. And it wants to reiterate separation constantly, right? So no matter how miserable you are in your current state, even if it's like the most beautiful place on the other side of that journey, the ego will do everything to keep you in the known, even if it's like miserable. Isn't that interesting?
That is interesting.
So, like, I was a child protection worker for over a decade, and I saw stuff that I thought was only in the movies when I went into this job. Significant abuse of children. And we always knew that once, like, even if that child was adopted out by a family member or a grandparent, that once they turned 18, they would go looking for they would return back to their parent because that was their normal. That was what they knew the most. And it never failed. They always did. No matter how awful that parent treated them, they always went back.
Really? Mm-hmm. Oh, wow.
Yeah. I mean, there was a small percent that probably didn't, but it was very small compared to the ones that did.
Even though they were abused. Mm-hmm. Wow.
Because that's what they grew up knowing. To them, that was love. That was the definition of love that they grew up learning. You learn love from your parents, right? So if you're abused all growing up and then you get into adulthood and you learn that abuse, like, isn't what you want for love, if you don't heal those narratives and you just make the surface level choice, you will always end up in a very similar relationship, being abused in some manner, whether it's emotionally, physically, mentally, any of the above, because that's the narrative of love you learned. And you have to literally go in and heal and forgive to really be able to change that narrative.
Interesting.
Yeah. It's not as easy as a mindset shift. I know mindset work is huge right now, and I am by no means saying that mindset work is not helpful and good. But what I've found for myself in my journey is mindset work only takes you so far, because it will help train the mind, right? It'll help you be more disciplined. But the second your life falls apart, if you haven't done the deep internal healing, you will go back to what normal was for you. You won't be able to maintain the mindset work because you haven't truly healed what it was in the first place. So I see more mindset work is more of like a
So getting into, explain mindset work for those that might not know what that is.
Yeah, so like affirmations and cold showers and meditation, like all of the buzz right now, right? Like go manifest the life of your dreams by writing 10 affirmations every single day and believing it and stepping into it, right? That's mindset work. It's very surface level. It's not getting to the root of what are those deep narratives that are actually running my life behind closed doors.
Right.
And I did that. I built an amazing business, and then it all fell apart because it was just mindset work. It wasn't the deep internal work.
What's the getting into cold water?
Oh, the cold plunges or cold showers. It's just really training your mind that it can do hard things. You know, like when you're working out, have you ever had a trainer, a personal trainer?
Mm-hmm. I have one right now.
Okay. So, you know, when you get to like rep 10 and they're like, give me one more, give me two more. And you're like, but I can't, my body's going to die. But for some reason you pull it out of your butt, right? And you do two more. It's because your mind will make you stop before your body actually gives out. There's like, I'm not a scientist by any means, and I'm really awful at remembering quotes and people who said stuff, but there is actual scientific studies, if you want to go find it behind there, of like why that happens, and it's some sort of safety survival thing so that you don't overwork your body and just
your mind's trying to protect you.
Yeah, 100%. It's always trying to protect you.
Your body's like, I can do it. Gonna go.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I mean, like bird dogs are a perfect example of that. Like if you have a bird dog that you train for bird hunting or whatever, so many dogs die on opening weekend of bird hunting because like they won't stop. They'll just keep going. So it's up to the owner to pay attention and stop them so that they can rest. And so I don't know if they're brain doesn't have the stop switch. I don't know that scientific stuff, but I do know that is a direct representation of like your like mind not telling your body it's time to stop.
Right.
Or not listening to it. Maybe it's that. Maybe they've trained their dogs not to listen to it.
I don't know. I think people do that sometimes too. Whether overtraining.
Oh yeah.
Or just anything.
For sure.
Exhausting yourself because you're working too much, like we talked about before.
Yeah. But that goes back into the narratives, right? Because you at some point played a different narrative in your mind. So now like your survival techniques don't even work anymore because you've rewritten them with a narrative of I have to work myself to the bone in order to accomplish anything in life. So it's like finding that middle ground.
Right. I like that.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I know we went kind of deep.
What else you got?
Oh, what else do I got? I mean,
What else you got? At CEA Marketing, we take your business, your passion, and your why, and we sell it. If you're unsure where to start marketing your company, CEA Marketing is here to help. Our team at CEA has tons of experience and top-notch training, which helps you take all the stress and confusion out of marketing your own business. After years of working with large companies like Pulte Homes and Metro Places, we guarantee the successful implementation of a marketing strategy.
I think the biggest piece is like realizing literally there are only two true emotions and choices every single day, and it either falls under fear, which is the ego, or love, which is your highest self. And it's that simple, right? But it's not easy.
So every day, or either one way or the other.
Well, and not
going in and out between the two.
In every situation you can choose, but they cannot coexist. So you cannot be in a state of fear and also be in a state of love, or vice versa. So you're always one or the other. So you're either listening to your highest self or you're listening to your ego, right? Kind of like the two again. But you can't hear them both at the same time. Like, you can't choose both of them at the same time. It's one or the other.
Can you be in like the state of fear, but then your mind can tell you, hey, you're doing this, or give it maybe something? How can you pull yourself out of it when it's happening?
When you're like in the midst of making a choice of fear, you can always choose love. In a matter of a second, you can always move from a place of fear to a place of love. And that's just goes into really retraining the brain. And really untying yourself from the ego so that you can constantly come from a state of love. Like, I am on that journey too. It is a journey, right? It's not like, oh, here, flip the switch and here I go. But it's awareness. I mean, the biggest thing to get yourself on the road to healing and to really coming from a place of love is awareness. As soon as you start to become aware, you can never become unaware, right? So either it will eat you alive, your awareness, right? Because you're so constantly aware that you're always choosing a state of fear, or it will bring so much awareness that one day you're like, I'm done. Like, I need to do the work so I can choose love. But once you bring awareness is really when your journey will begin, is what I really think. Because literally, like, you cannot become unaware. And there is times on this journey where I'm like, I just want to go back to sleeping. I want to go back to where I don't take care of myself. Like, I don't have to do the work. But like, that's really when I'm in times of ego, right? Like, where it's a struggle and my ego's really pulling, but I want to choose love and I'm really stuck in fear, whatever. But I can't go back, because I have too much awareness. Like, it would kill me inside if I started to just make decisions based on what everybody else told me to.
Right. You mentioned doing the work.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
So I think it kind of goes really back to our last podcast and really, I mean, I still am a firm believer that inner child work is worth its weight in gold. I don't know if that's the right statement, but it will literally change your life. But really going back and understanding why you are operating the way you are so that you can untie that, you can forgive that, so you can understand your worth and really move forward on this journey. Because otherwise it's always like, you know, 1 step forward, 20 steps back, because you have this rooted place within you of deep seated narratives that, though you're doing like the mindset work, which we talked about earlier, and the surface level, like reading a personal development book, which, don't get me wrong, kudos, like that you're still of a very low % of people that actually make the choice to do something. But it just won't be sustainable. So it's just really understanding who you are and getting back in touch with your highest self. That the one that knows who you are, knows what you're truly capable of, and knows the reality of what it is we're living in and how simple it is doing the work. Yeah. I think I answered that question.
I think so. You got to get down to the root of it all and get that figured out.
Right. You got to like clean it up. It's kind of like this is a good analogy I just thought of. You know, when you cut down, you have to have them come out and grind the stump out. Otherwise, it can start growing little trees.
Right.
Like that. Like we're stump grinding. We got to go stump grinding. Otherwise, you'll have little trees that pop up and they drive you insane because they're like just enough to screw everything up, but not enough to like fully change you back to the tree.
Right.
Right? So we got to stump grind. That's my new analogy.
Good one.
Is it?
Like
That's
that.
good. Yeah,
it's really good.
Well, because we used to have a tree we got cut down, and we didn't pay for stump grinding, and it was the most annoying thing ever. It like grew new trees every year. Mm-hmm. Sorry, but that came to my mind. It was like such a pesky thing.
Oh, they are. That I had one outside. My second sold this big, humongous oak tree, and it was dying and not in good health anyway. But it was basically breaking up all my concrete and everything out there, and it's kind of sad. But we had to cut it down. But after we cut it down, it was still a menace because it was the things were still there causing issues and popping tires and all kinds of stuff, and it didn't look better until the stump grinder came out and got rid of the whole thing.
And that's how it is because it's like it's enough to be pesky, right? But not enough to be a full eyesore. It was just like...
it was pretty much a bad eyesore.
Well, yeah. But that's how it is. So I was actually talking to a woman today, and she was talking about some forgiveness lessons with her mom and how she's like, I'm just not talking to her anymore. Then I'm better, right? But because when I talk to her, she sparks all this anger and emotion, and I become less of a good mom and less of a good wife for a couple hours after my conversation with her. And I said, yeah, that's probably true. But if you're just avoiding it, it's still showing up in other places of your life. It's just not as apparent. So it's kind of like that.
Yeah, and then you also have that pain and guilt of, and actually missing them too by not talking to somebody.
Right. So
I see a lot of, I even do that too, get in a fight with somebody, but I don't tend to last very long with the not talking because I don't find it to be healthy.
Yeah.
But I've seen people do that before where they'll just, not talk.
For years, forever.
Done.
Some people will forever.
Yeah, let it go forever. And then when something happens, you look back on that, you're like, damn, man, I should have
right. Said something.
Why was I like that? Selfish.
Right, but it's the ego again. You don't feel worthy of forgiveness, so why are you going to forgive that person? So whatever that person sparked in the other person must have been something pretty deep and some major healing that was screaming for help and just didn't get to that point.
Yeah.
So, and I know we talked about, I think on the last podcast, like my relationship with my ex-husband. Like we talk now, we have weekly calls with my son, like we get along. And it was all because I did the work of healing myself. And because I got to the place where I felt worthy of forgiveness, I was able to forgive him. So, and by no means has he changed. He's the same person. I don't have to agree with him. I don't have to want to be his friend. But I can be to the point where it doesn't impact me. I don't get prickled by him because I have forgiven him because I know that I was worthy of forgiveness. And yeah, pretty much it.
That's important. It's important for the kids that you get along too.
Yeah.
Because if not, it sets them in a different journey.
Definitely. 100%.
Yeah. I talk with friends with my ex too. We're actually taking a ski trip together with the kids.
Yeah, you guys really did it beautifully. I know we talked about it on the last one.
We did.
And we're not telling people that you have to do as beautiful as Kelly, but no. That is the holy grail.
Yeah, I don't know. It was rough for a couple of years, but I just thought I don't want to play tug of war with my kids.
Right.
Not fair for them to have to go through this. So
100%.
get your act together.
Yeah.
Don't make them choose.
Mm-hmm. And that had to have taken some sort of a level of forgiveness for you to be able to do that, right?
Yeah.
Otherwise, you would be wanting to poke his eyes out every second you saw him or spent time with him. So though maybe your forgiveness wasn't prompted due to intentional healing, it occurred in the process of you making the choice for your children.
Yes.
So it can happen in all different ways.
Oh, it can.
Yeah, there's so many different paths on this journey. And I had a spiritual mentor tell me one time when we were talking about like spirituality and God and religion and, you know, all of that. And he's like, I don't know if I'll quote him right, but I'm going to tell you my gist of the story. So we all wear clothes, right?
Yes.
And my shirt looks different than yours, but it doesn't mean that your shirt is any better than mine. We're both getting to the same destination by having clothing on, but just by a different means.
Right.
So I kind of look at it that way, and same for the healing journey, right? Some people, inner child work may not resonate with them. I might not resonate with them. I prickle a lot of people because I'm pretty upfront. But that doesn't mean my way is the only way. There's tons of ways.
Oh.
But
Just got to find the right way that's going to work best for you.
right. But in all reality, happiness and peace within truly exists. And living from a state of love that's not filled with fear is reality. It is there. I know if this would be like 7 years ago and we were having this conversation, I would have told you you're lying. That's only in the movies. Like, that is not reality. But I can say I'm living proof today. Do I get angry sometimes? Yeah, that's part of it. But the true question is, like, how long does it take me to get back to the state of love? And it's getting shorter and shorter every time. So I must be doing something right.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. That's something that I think we all need to work on for sure.
Yeah.
Just to feel better and have more peace, serenity in ourselves.
Yep. Just enjoy. Kind of, you know, the statement, heaven on earth.
And I think that, you know, one of the biggest things too is not everyone's going to like you. And even though you forgive them, they might not ever forgive you.
Nope.
And you just got to be able to let that part go.
Yeah. And that's like a cool thing I didn't really cover about forgiveness. I don't know how much time we have. I'll try to cover it quick.
That's okay. That's
so let's say, like you said, you pissed me off, Kelly, and I leave here, and you knew. No, let's do the other way. I pissed you off, right? And you leave. Our forgiveness of someone they don't need to know we forgive them, and they can maybe never forgive us. But when we get into a state of forgiveness and are coming from our highest self, this goes back to us being a collective again, right? All spirit, we're all spirit, just broken into different pieces, impacts you. So even if you can't forgive me, but I forgive you, because it like goes up into what we all are, without you even knowing, it impacts you and can start to change your behaviors, and you have no freaking clue what's going on, but I forgave you. Does that make sense? Sometimes it's kind of like, what?
Send something out there into the universe that.
Yeah, but it's so much deeper even than that, because it's like, just imagine like we're all one mind. That seems easier. Like one mind. And let's say like you're this part of the mind, I'm this part of the mind. Well, it's connected, right? So if we're both in a state of fear, but I choose a state of love and forgiveness, it's like it has to not affect you, right? Because it's affecting our mind that we share together. It may not impact you as much as like my side is impacted, but it will impact you. And you may not know. So when you forgive, you are also impacting that person's journey to their own healing. You're impacting the spirit as a whole in its journey. I mean, it's so much more than just like, I forgive you and we move on. And, you know, what we're always told is like, forgiveness is for you, not for the other person. Well, yeah, but not really. It's for everyone. It's for all of us together. So even something large, like there's been lots of, you know, different controversies, and I don't even know what you call them, but there's been a lot of fear in the world lately. We'll say that. Yes. And even forgiving that is huge, because when it's a collective fear, it's so much more impactful, even to people that aren't in the state of fear but are choosing love. It still can attempt to impact them, because it's the whole mind, the whole spirit is filled with fear. And, you know, that goes down to another rabbit hole, but that's how wars, and, you know, there's been discussion about our collective spirit being able to impact, you know, tsunamis and hurricanes, and I don't know what all the science.
Well, I can see that would be very powerful.
Exactly.
All that energy.
Mm-hmm. And, you know, people talk about the power of prayer too, which would be the other side. We're all with the same, you know, vision in our collective spirit, coming together, wanting a certain thing to be healed, you know. So if that's possible, then the other side must be possible.
I would think so.
Yeah. So it's so much bigger. It's not just about you.
No. It's about everything, it sounds like.
It's all you, but it's not you.
Right.
Oh, we're going to have to put like a...
Get your act together, people.
Yeah. Get your act together. It's time to go home.
Time to start forgiving.
Yeah. Time to step in and forgive.
The change that can be made.
Yeah. Oh, this has been fun.
I love it. Definitely. You give some great advice today, and I think a lot of people really think about that. And sorry, I'm starting to get sniffles here. And they think about it and they suffer. I think you gave some good tips. And if they want to learn more, they should reach out to you.
So you can follow me at Ash_Abramson on Instagram. I do actually, I think tonight I'm finishing the landing page, but I have a free masterclass. So that, yeah, Friday the 27th, it is called Goodbye Resolution and Hello Evolution. So it's I
like it.
Yeah, it's a no-nonsense guide to throwing broken resolutions out the window forever. Stop the surface level BS. It's time to step in and step up and, you know, start to own your life. Start to make those steps. So that will be available. It should be live tomorrow, or you can go sign up absolutely free. There will be access to the recording as well. So if you can't make it during the time, go ahead and do that. I have a group session opening up soon. And I always just love to have discussion, period.
You do one-on-ones also, coaching?
Yep. I do one-on-one coaching sessions. 6-month minimum, and then my newest venture is speaking, and I love it, Kelly.
I can see you being an excellent speaker.
Yeah, I'm like, Tony Robbins, watch out, here I come.
So much great energy you have.
Yeah.
And so much to share.
Yeah. Sometimes I gotta hold back on that, but yeah, lots to share.
Oh, let it go.
Yeah.
I love it. All that positive energy spreads to people. It's
right.
Good for us.
Yeah.
So yeah, congratulations with the speaking, though. That's great. I need to get back on my speaking. I was on it and then kind of go back and forth with it, where I speak a lot, because I hate it, actually.
You do?
Yeah, I'm very much an introvert.
Yeah.
So it's, I do it because I have to, not because I like to. But sometimes when I get in my groove and I'm doing
get in a rhythm.
Yeah, it feels great.
Yeah.
Like when you got up in front of people and you had a really good message and you didn't fumble all over the place and,
right.
Shake like a leaf, and you really knew your shit when you went out there.
Right.
And you let the fear go away, and really played to the audience. I've had that happen, and that's such a great feeling.
Yeah. And that's what I experienced. I mean, I don't know, this is a different tangent, but I was scared to death to speak in front of a group. So I carried a microphone around for over a month. Everywhere
I saw that on
Whole
Instagram.
Foods even. I even brought it to Whole Foods. So But yeah.
But that's a smart idea, though.
Yeah, I was like, because I do so much of my internal work, I couldn't get to the root of it. And I was like, all right, we're leaning all in. Like, we are going to carry a microphone around. We are going to bring all the attention our way. And we are going to just push through this. So it was like exposure therapy.
I like that. In my next big speaking gig, I need to carry around a microphone like that.
Yeah,
probably.
I've got one you can borrow.
Probably going to need
It's
it.
a legit one. Like, it has a cord you can plug in, but I didn't have it plugged in. So, yeah.
Yeah, I chose podcasting over signing up for speaking engagements. I like this a lot better.
Yeah, this is awesome.
It is fun to do. I still like to do it. But
yeah, well, I'll come to your next speech, even if I don't know what it's about.
It's usually about marketing subjects. So.
Oh, then I'll like that.
Yeah.
If it's like real estate and stuff I won't understand about, so I'll support you.
I talk marketing.
Okay. I can come to that.
Yeah. There's a lot of good tips I have, actually. My stuff is usually pretty good and relevant to the latest trends and
that's perfect.
Things people can be doing. Because I just think that, a lot of people kind of get lost. There's so much out there right now. And there's also just a ton of people that say they're experts. And there's just so many of that out there, and it's really scary. So
yeah,
having somebody that they can understand, an old dog like me that knows what good marketing is,
they've actually been doing
I think it could be a lot of help for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm. Oh, when you say there's so many people saying they're experts, it's just so saturated in all industries.
Yeah, and people be careful because just because somebody says they're an expert at something doesn't mean that they are.
Exactly.
Look into it, get references, make sure they've been doing it for several years.
Mm-hmm. And that, they eat their own dog food, at least in my realm is.
Because they take a course on social media.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm an expert.
Right. Or the coaches that are like, oh, I'll help you make $10,000 a month. Just because they made it 1 month out of the last 20 years does not mean they're an expert at it. It's just. Yeah, gimmicks.
Yeah. That stuff drives me crazy.
Yeah. My friend Kimberly and I had a whole discussion about it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. We could go down another rabbit hole.
We could go down. No, that's another conversation for sure. Yeah. It's one of my big pet. I tell you to be careful.
Yep, 100%.
But, so that's me speaking. But thank you for being on my show.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
Love it. It's so great. It's good for me every time you're on here, too.
I love it.
Thank you for joining us. We'll see you next time on Learning Curves. See ya. Bye.
Second Soul Studios is a full-service production studio with capabilities for photo, video, podcasting, editing, co-working, and more. Our photo video studio has a number of different backdrop choices and props to choose from. We also have a gourmet kitchen set, or if you're an upstart podcaster, you'll love our 4-person podcast studio. So what are you waiting for? Visit secondsoulstudios.com to book a tour today.